All right. 7:01. The board previously met in closed session under exceptions C9, C1, and C21. With that, I'd like to call to order the March 11th, 2025 Waukegan Public School Board of Education meeting. If I can have a roll call.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Fabian?
Present.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Here.
Mr. Riddle?
Present.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Lensing?
Present.
President Ewing?
Here. So we do have a quorum. With that, I'd like a motion to resume open session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Riddle, seconded by Ms. Gonzalez. All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. We are in open session. Ms. Witherspoon, if you'd be so kind as to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Witherspoon.
Wow, gee.
All right, board president's time. So happy Women's History Month this March. There are tons of celebrations that are going on as we also gear up for spring break and other celebrations. So excited for that and hope that you all can get some much needed rest. Unless we have a special meeting this month, which we may. This is the only board meeting that we have scheduled. So, we do have a student achievement meeting next week. So again, I'll keep the board updated on all of those items. It's been a really busy time. A lot of different events going on. I know that I was able to attend the color ball at Andrew Cook, which was really fun. So if you were able to see all the students in their different colors representing their houses, what they call it is 4 houses but one family, and it really promotes inclusion and team building and a lot of fun. So I am in the house divided, so I'm in the black house, but my wife and 2 of my sons are in the blue house.
I'm in the greenhouse.
Miss Hannah's in the greenhouse. And so even on the board, we have different houses that are represented. So excited to participate in that. It is election season. I keep reminding individuals that elections are coming up. Myself and Ms. Gonzalez will not be seeking another term, but we do have 2 board members that are up for re-election, as well as many others that are seeking election. And so there is a school board candidate forum. One is for students, and this is March 12th, which is tomorrow. And that'll be in room 201 at Washington campus for 5th and 6th periods. And then there is a community forum at TRAP at Brookside, and that is 6 to 7:30 p.m. Also, that one's open to the community at the TRAP auditorium. So 6 to 7:30 p.m. March 13th, I apologize. We'll make sure that it's on social media, but again, March 13th, TRAP at Brookside, 6 to 7:30 is open to the community. There's also a Waukegan Mayoral Candidate Forum on Saturday, March 26th by the League of Women Voters. That'll be at the Patricia A. Jones Center, formerly Park Place on Lewis Avenue. And that one is 3:30 p.m. until 5 p.m. once again on the 22nd. So make sure you get informed and that you vote. I'll send it to you, Ms. Hannah.
Okay.
In addition, I want to say that the board, in solidarity with our teachers who last week wore blue in order to stand up for against budget cuts. Yeah, so stand up against budget cuts, and just make it known that education is extremely important. I just read a headline that over 1,100 jobs have been slashed at the education department. And what we want our legislators to know is just how important the education department is, how important and critical that funding is for Waukegan Public Schools. And so I do want to thank Ms. Hannah for encouraging us to stand in solidarity with our teachers. And so we are wearing blue in support and protest of those cuts. So go ahead, Ms. Hannah.
And just to add to what Board President was saying, that there also have been cuts of the funding freeze on the federal food program.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just another thing that we're going to have to be dealing with.
Yeah. So, again, there are tons of stuff going on. Please follow the district social medias, sign up for the email alerts. Parents, make sure that your emails and things are updated because there's a lot going on. And if you guys can believe it, the school year is coming almost to a close. So we only have a little over 60 some odd days left in this school year, so make every one of them count. With that, I'd like to turn it over to our student board member for the student board member report.
Is this on? Yeah, okay. Thank you for your time, but I don't have anything to present today.
Thank you. We do have a spotlight on 60, so if we can get that queued up right now. And while we get that queued up, I do want to just say the superintendent unfortunately was unable to make it this evening. Dr. Cesario is sitting in her stead due to a funeral. So thank you, Dr. Cesario. Go ahead.
Today is our open house, and it's a way of showing what our students have accomplished and learned so far with the partnership with Jetson Controls.
Originally, I had asked for engineering, but they put me in this class because it was full. And it was a good idea though, because there's a lot of exposure here that I wouldn't have gotten in any other class.
So we are super excited to be celebrating the actual usage of our HVAC lab. It has been a long road, and we're just excited to be having actual students being able to participate in the classes, to learn what it is to be an HVAC technician.
Something that I really like about the class is, me personally, I'm a very hands-on type of person. I like working with my hands, using some tools. And I thought that this was a good opportunity to learn something new, as I'm not a big sit down and read a book type of person. I'd much rather get real experience working with things like this.
The exposure to all these different types of tools, like for me, I said I would like to pursue engineering. So the different type of tools will like prepare me for when I go to college, and like I already have like a grasp of what to do in certain areas.
CTE is so important to our schools. CTE has proven to actually increase the graduation rate up to 20% of students that would normally be in jeopardy of graduating.
The career and technical education aspect is really critical. You know, these jobs are not only stable, they're also expanding. We're always going to have heating and cooling. We're always going to have electrical. We're always going to have plumbing. You know, people are going to have a place to go. They're going to need comfortability. And this also translates not just residential, but commercial properties as well as automotive. It translates to a lot of different industries.
I want to say, seeing that the different programs that are coming back, I know we have board members, Ms. Hannah being one of them, that talk about career and technical education. I know we use those acronyms. That's what CTE stands for, career and technical education. But bringing more of those back in district. We still do participate in Tech Campus, but trying to create more of those opportunities at the high school. So excited to see this as one of the programs. You had a question, Ms. Fabian?
No, keep going.
Oh, no, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I love the program, and I was privileged enough to see Temple Grandin. She's been a proponent for really adding CTE when they were talking about the graduation rates, because there are students that need that hands-on. But I was really looking at also their T-shirts and reading that. I was like, did they like coordinate that? Is that part of the program? They come in uniform too? Does
I love
anybody
those
know?
shirts.
Like that.
I know when I was down there, they were all in the uniform.
Yeah, I was wondering if they're also preparing them for that part of it.
Yeah.
And then I had just one more comment on just for the community. Again, I know I've said it before, but you know the rules have changed to become a CTE teacher. So if you're retired, have extra time, those programs can only happen if we have educators. So those of you who are looking for a career change after retirement and you have experience in those areas, I encourage you to look at isb.net and look at the requirements to be a CTE teacher.
Awesome. And then I did forget something before we go to approval of minutes. So just under the president's report is had been brought to my attention and continues to be brought to my attention, and that's why I'm saying it publicly, about the safety gate at the Brookside campus. So I did bring that to Mr. Deputy Moten, and Deputy Moten, if you want to just speak to the solution for the board and the community.
Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Cesario, staff, and community. The item that the board president references is a swing gate that is at the Brookside campus as part of the new parking lot. That is something that can open and close based on the needs of the school in the morning and in the afternoon, as well as for after-school activities and specialty items such as snow plowing. Due to the concern brought forward, we're going to leave that in the open or closed position at all times to ensure that it is secured and no longer a safety concern.
And that'll be a place for tomorrow then, Deputy Moten.
Yes, sir. This evening.
And then I did want to, Ms. Fabian, just something that we've been trying to get in the practice of is a brief moment of silence. Just, it's been a lot going on. It's always a lot going on. And it's a way to help center ourselves as well as recognize those who have passed. And again, we don't know all the time unless we get the names who that individual is. So we just wanted to do a blanket moment of silence.
Wait, can I say one name?
Go ahead, Ms. Hannah.
We did unfortunately lose one of our longtime safety officers, Mr. Otis Moodigi.
Thank you. All right, we do have approval of closed session minutes from item 8A. So it's recommended that the Board of Education approve the closed session minutes dated May 16th, 2023, March 12th, 2024, September 24th, 2024, November 12th, 2024, February 11th, 2025, that were previously reviewed in closed session.
I so move.
Motion by Ms. Hannah, seconded by Ms. Lindsay. All in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Minutes are approved. All right, we are now at item 8B, approval of the minutes for the open session meeting of February 11th, 2025. If you can read that one, Director Cesario.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Hannah, seconded by Ms. Gonzalez. Any comments, questions, corrections on the minutes? All in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Minutes are approved.
I passed because I wasn't there.
One pass. Mr. Riddle. All right, and now it's the opportunity for public comment. So for public comment, there will be a time clock on the screens. Each speaker gets 3 minutes. This is your opportunity to address the board. It's a one-way push of information. The board will not engage in conversation at this time, but it is your opportunity and right to address the board. We do want to remind all speakers of civility. We do ask that you refrain from mentioning student and staff member names in your remarks. If you need translation services will be provided for you, and you will get 6 minutes to allow for the translation. First three names in order: Jennifer Witherspoon, Ray Vukovic, and Luz Granda.
Good evening, board members. It's so good to see some of you. I haven't seen you in a long time. My name is Jennifer Witherspoon. I'm an attorney. Most of you I've had contact with before. I'm here today for very troubling reasons. As most of you know, my children went through Waukegan Public Schools. I'm a member of Waukegan. I've been a member for a very long time. And I just want to make sure that the board really knows what's going on. I'm getting calls seriously, daily, from teachers, from students in regard to unfair treatment that they're experiencing here at the Waukegan Public Schools. Some of that treatment has resulted in investigations being going on. I don't know how aware you are, but the average investigation, if somebody gets back to that teacher or that student, takes 3 months. As a matter of fact, I have 3 cases that's been around since 2024. Now, not to go into exactly what those are about, because I don't want to do that. As you all know, you may know, and those that don't know, I used to be the hearing officer here. And one of the things that I used to do, I would make sure that it was fair. If a teacher, did something wrong, I'd make sure that they understood that. If the student did something wrong, I made sure that they understood that they did something wrong. What's going on here is unacceptable. It really is. I can't soften it up. I can't say it any other way. It's unacceptable, and it hardens my heart every time I get a call from a student or a teacher talking about that they were treated, they weren't allowed to to go to a meeting, or if they weren't allowed to go find out something about a student, or a student who was taken off an IEP, and they weren't even aware that their child was taken off of that IEP. I don't know what's going on. I don't know who is responsible for it, but this is just me using my I'm looking at you up there, and I know that the majority of you up there have integrity. And I want to read this. A school board that pursues its ends through the delegation of authority has a moral obligation to itself and the community to determine whether that authority is being used as intended. Again, a client that I had, we had to end up going outside of the Waukegan School District for my client to be heard. That doesn't make any sense.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you for your time.
Mr. Vukovic.
Good evening, Mr. President. I want to thank you for bringing up that item about the swing gate. I'm the one that brought that to your attention some 6 weeks ago. And while it might sound like a little item to somebody that a gate doesn't get locked, yesterday was the 3rd time in 6 weeks that I brought it to your attention, and you indicated that the deputy superintendent would take care of it and have it done. That was yesterday at dinner time. I had brought it to your attention, and you just responded today. Deputy Superintendent says it'll be locked tomorrow. As of 6:30 tonight, it's still out there. It's still a hazard. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because 30 years ago, in this district, at Whittier School, there was a young lady who was decapitated by one of those gates. She was driving around the back of the building, and the sun blinded her. She drove right into it, and it killed her. This district paid out a seven-figure settlement on that. Didn't bring the young lady back, but it cost this district dearly. So this isn't something that happened on the East Coast or on the West Coast. It happened right here in this district. And by God, somebody needs to lock the damn gate. How difficult is it? You have to unlock it to open it, and you have the same lock, you lock the thing. I don't understand how difficult that can be. And by the way, the city of Waukegan outlawed those gates. And there's some back and forth over the years where you all think that you don't have to follow city ordinances. Well, once stuff's on the outside with fencing and things like that, you're supposed to be following it. But it's about time that that thing gets locked and stayed locked. Because if it doesn't, I will keep bringing it up until the top person responsible is gone. Because this district shouldn't have to go through that again. No member of this community should have to go through that. On another matter, I see you put signage up at 214 Washington Street. You know, sometimes I've said some people around here have their heads up in the clouds. Apparently that's the audience you're looking for, because 6 stories up, Waukegan Public Schools. You could see it from the jail and the county building, or if you're in a helicopter, but at street level, you can't see it. So I don't know who thought of that one, but thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vukovic. Luz Granda, if we can get 6 minutes.
Buenas noches, muchas gracias por la oportunidad que me dan de estar aquí y por su atención que quiero tener.
Good night. I'm really grateful that you are giving me the time to talk to you, and give me this opportunity.
Sí, su atención que necesito tener de ustedes.
I really need your attention. I don't know if you can hear me. I don't hear myself. Okay.
Estoy aquí porque estuve mirando los resultados del examen que les hicieron a los estudiantes el 27 de febrero.
I'm here because I was looking at the test result that the students had on the February 27th.
Donde se decía que el 84% de los estudiantes salieron mal,
When it says that 84% of the students were not doing good.
mientras el 14% de los estudiantes estaban en camino.
Well, the 14% they were on their way.
Y mi estudiante del grado 9 es uno de los que salió mal.
And my student, the 9th grader, is the one that did really bad.
No es la primera vez que yo estoy aquí
This is not the first time that I am here
para pedir ayuda en literatura para mi estudiante.
to ask help in lit for my student.
Lo he hecho durante todos los años que estuvo mi estudiante en middle school.
I have done it all the time that my student was at middle school.
Y presiento que siempre he sido ignorada.
And I feel that have always been ignored.
Ahora que yo veo estos porcentajes, noto que yo no estoy equivocada.
And now that I see these percentages, I see that I was not wrong.
Tanto mi estudiante como sus compañeros necesitan ayuda.
My student and his companions need help,
Y la necesitan pronto.
and they need it soon.
Porque se supone que estos estudiantes están siendo preparados para estar en la universidad.
Because these students are supposed to be prepared to go to college.
Y yo miré también que ustedes, miembros del board, le hicieron preguntas a la encargada del departamento de literatura.
And I know that you on the board asked questions to the lady in charge of lit.
Y si mi traductor me tradució bien, ella dijo que en otro tiempo.
And if me translated right, she says that you got.
Lo que dijo la directora del departamento de literatura.
She said that the lady says that it will be in another time.
Yo creo que para los estudiantes de high school no debe de haber otro tiempo. Es el tiempo correcto. Desde que ven los resultados del ACT, ese es el tiempo correcto.
I think especially for the high school students, as soon as you see a results like that, especially after the ACT, that's the time to help them.
Los resultados del ACT les están diciendo ¿En qué están fallando los estudiantes?
The results of the ACT tells you what and where the students are lacking knowledge.
Desde febrero, el 27 de febrero, yo me comuniqué con la directora del departamento de bilingüe, me comuniqué con los de la escuela.
Since February 27, I communicate with the lady of the bilingual department. ¿Dijo el departamento bilingüe?
No, el departamento de literatura.
Oh, and the Department of Literature.
Hay una sección en el ACT que mis hijos, los dos, me dijeron, es una sección de gramática.
There is a section in the ACT that my children told me that it's a grammar section.
Entonces, en esta sección los estudiantes deben de saber bien dónde van los puntos, dónde van los acentos, saber qué mensaje quieren enviar.
And in this section, the students need to know exactly how to put a period, commas, accents, and the student really need to know this.
Entonces, yo creo que es importante que estos niños de la high school se les ayude.
I think it's very important that you help the high school students.
Y sí me gustaría, por favor, ustedes que están ahí, que propongan algo para que ahora que vienen las clases en verano, estos niños que van atrás en literatura puedan ellos alcanzar su meta donde deben de estar.
And it's very important that you, right now, before the summer, have a program so they can help the students to reach their potential.
Es urgente esa ayuda porque si ustedes ven niños del 9 grado, el 84% y el 14% están fallando, entonces es urgente.
And if you see the percentage is 80% and then 14%, you know this is urgent.
Y yo creo que voy a mandar los emails que tenga que mandar, voy a estar insistiendo hasta que yo tenga la ayuda que yo necesito para mi estudiante.
I'm going to send emails and I'm going to send more emails and more emails until I am heard and do something else so you can hear me.
Ya lo he hecho por casi 3 años, ya con este es el 4º año, yo creo que ya es suficiente. Y más cuando ustedes ven los resultados, no sé qué tengo que hacer más.
You have heard me 3 years and this is the 4th year. What are you waiting for to hear me?
Por favor, necesitan ayuda los estudiantes de Waukegan High School y también mi estudiante.
Please help the students of Waukegan High School. They need it, and my student too.
Y no escuchen el mensaje que les estoy dando ahorita y saliendo de la puerta ya se los olviden. No, eso no es justo para los estudiantes.
Don't forget the message that I'm telling you right now. Don't go after this meeting is over, and then you forget everything what I just asked.
Gracias.
Thank you,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Granda. Next 3 names in order are Rayon Edwards, Randy Sabecki, and Javier Granda.
Good evening, everybody. It's been a while. It feels contagious being in this building. But first of all, I want to say congratulations to the Waukegan Bulldogs. Them young men did something amazing, not just on the court, but off the court. They galvanized the whole community together. They brought all of those people in the building, and that's not always easy to do. So I want to say congratulations to them boys because I'm so proud to be a Bulldog. Okay, now having said that, sometimes when we come up here and speak, it's redundant because the message is getting missed. I come back because I get a message that an autistic kid was hit in our district and that this mother found out 4 weeks later. I see the test scores being read out at a school board meeting, not at a student achievement meeting. That was strange to me. And I asked myself, well, why would they do that? Because, see, at that student achievement meeting, we have real dialogue. At the board meeting, you guys we can't have that. Tonight, Mr. Riddle, I remember you. I had the distinct pleasure of being in the Lake County Jail. You helped a lot of friends of mine get their GED. You was real firm with that. I remember you. Jeff McBride, I remember you. From a kid to almost an adult. And a lot of people oftentimes ask me where I get all of that from. It was people like you that I learned this from, who fought against people, who pushed back against the norm, who did what was right even when it was hard and no matter who it was. Brandon, I've been knowing you for a very long time. From the People Choice days when I was bringing all of the kids there. He was awesome, bro. Ms. Hannah, I've been knowing you just as long, watching a lot of things of what you did in the community. But today, as I stand up here, I ask myself, and I'm wrestling, because I'm almost like I don't know who you guys are. 2 employees is all you had. That's it. One of your employees do what she wants to do. She writes her own goals, she do all of that. It's unheard of. I don't know what we have to do to get things back. But despite what those boys did on the court, it's a black cloud because of this board. And our babies are losing. So Lucy, it kind of explained to you why a lot of top dogs in this district kids go to other schools because of those scores.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards.
Try not to drop it this time. All right. So I also want to congratulate the Bulldogs. It was amazing to see that gym packed. But one thing that I was disheartened to see, what about halftime? What about prom? Or the POMs, the cheerleaders, and all that? Where is their opportunity to showcase their talents and their hard work that they've done? That was a tradition in this district. They've always put on halftime shows. We have a lot of amazing singers in this district. Where's someone singing the national anthem? It's a lot more meaningful when someone sings it than to play it on a recorder. And that really hypes up the gym, especially when it's packed. So I'd like to see, that stuff come back. And so for some reason, it wasn't there. And then one of the other things I want to talk about, it's funny, Mr. Edwards mentioned it, is goals. So I'm asking for a recommendation for the people that are going to remain on this board and for whoever's going to sit on this board. You have 2 employees. Superintendent should not be writing her own goals. That's your guys' job. You guys write the expectations of the superintendent. That's your employee. That's the way it should be done. When someone can write their own goals, and out of 22 schools, we only have one of the goals is for one school to move up in the state report card to get a bonus. That's ridiculous. Out of 22 schools. That needs to change. The superintendent's been here, 9, 10 years? These scores haven't changed. They look like this since she's been here. We've sat here for a lot of presentations under this top administration leadership and heard of all the stuff that's supposed to be done and wasn't done. During COVID, and I'll keep bringing it up, Mr. Cesario, is during COVID, all the support these kids were supposed to have when they're at home for COVID, they didn't get. My kid was one of those, 5 times with COVID. He was COVID and had to be home. He didn't get no support. And all we ever get when it's brought up is, sorry that happened to you. Sorry that happened to you. When is this board and the future boards gonna hold their employees accountable? We hold teachers accountable. We don't hesitate to write them up and then mention their name up on this dais. Why don't we do that to our administrators? Why does this school district have a high turnover? We talk about teacher shortage, a high turnover of administrators in this district besides the top couple. It's a revolving door. Obviously, there's a problem in our district. And one of the other things I'll say, we have 2 deputy superintendents with contracts end at the end of this year. How about we go and actually give them SMART goals? Let's base their performance off the IAR test results and the SAT results. When those come back, let's go off those goals to see if they come back to this district or not.
Thank you, Mr. Zabecki. Javier Granda.
Hello, members of the school board, Dr. Sario, committee members. I come to represent the Waukegan High School JRTC. I would like to formally invite all the board members this Saturday to the Waukegan High School 99th Military Ball. It'll be at Lakehurst Plaza. It'll start at 5. It would mean a lot for you guys to come out and see what JRTC does in some ways. And it'll be a formal event, formal attire. We've not really had many board members show up. We always have plans in the case they show up, but we'd like you guys show up if possible. I would also like to advocate for more grammar help in high school, starting from 9th grade, since I'm an 11th grader now, and grammar help would be nice, but it would be better if we start off with a better foundation in 9th grade, which will help us build those scores up for colleges and just in life, in careers. We always need like grammar, good writing for any job we do. So I would like to advocate for more grammar help. And that's it. Thank you for your time. Hope to see you all there on Saturday.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Granda. And thank you to all our speakers this evening. With that, we do have our consent agenda, which is up. These items are voted on in order to expedite the work of the board. They should be non-controversial and or previously discussed. There are 4 items here. Any board member can ask to vote on any item separately. If you'd like to do so, please give me the letter at this time.
Board President, can I vote, or can we vote separately on A?
A. Anyone else? All right, then I need a motion to approve items 10, B, C, and D.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Lenzing, seconded by Ms. Fabian. Any comments, questions on the motion?
This is for B to D.
B to D, B, C, and D.
Just a quick comment. I just want to give kudos to the board because, as you all know, I used to do FACE and do the back to school resource fair with no budget and no staff, and to see that the board has been continuously supporting the expansion of our back to school fair. Personally, I will say I really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, roll call.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Fabian?
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Lenzing?
Yes.
President Ewing?
Yes, item approved, motion carries. And I'll read those for the record. 10B, renewal for consumable program 6 through 8 grade ESL materials. C, approval of Pivot Learning Network LLC. And D, approval of the purchase of pre-K-12 school supplies. All right, now we got item 10A, Lightfoot Pyramid Professional Development. If you read the recommended action.
It is a recommendation of the administration that the Board of Education authorize the superintendent or her designee to approve Nicole Session, Jessica Beck, and Christina Tenen to attend the Pyramid Conference in Tampa, Florida from April 20th through the 26th, 2025. The total cost is estimated at $8,025, which includes registration, lodging, travel, and meal per diem rate.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Riddle, seconded by Ms. Gonzalez. Any comments, questions on the motion?
My only comment is while I do like that our staff, our teachers especially, are going out to get professional development, unfortunately I can't support this just because of the location to be in the state of Florida and to remain consistent with my prior voting as well.
Thank you. Roll call.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Fabian?
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Lenzing?
No.
President Ewing?
Yes, item approved, motion carries. We're now at item 13A for personnel.
That the Board of Education accepts the administration's recommendation to approve the appointments, retirements, retirement extension requests, and accepts the resignations as found on schedules F1002, L949, and G660.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Gonzalez, seconded by Mr. Riddle. Any comments or questions on the motion?
We have some retirees that are listed, would just like to give them well wishes whenever they do. They put in, but they have extended. They've extended their stay here in the district.
Thank you, Ms. Hannah. Roll call.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Fabian?
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Lensing?
Pass.
President Ewing?
Yes, item approved, motion carries. Item 16A, financial reports, ratification of the first processing of March 2025 board bills, manual check request payments, Old National Bank insurance payments for the period of February 19th, 2025 through March 4th, 2025.
It is a recommendation of the administration that the Board of Education ratify the first March 2025 processing of board bills, manual check request payments, and Old National Bank insurance payments for the period of February 19, 2025 through March 4, 2025. The accounts payable board payments for the period of February 19, 2025 through March 4, 2025 totals $3,282,048.65. The manual check request payments for the period of February 19, 2025 through March 4, 2025 totals $529,192.74. The Old National Bank insurance payments for the period of February 19, 2025 through March 4, 2025 totals $2,951,226.02.
I make a motion that we approve. No, I remove my motion. Somebody else's motion.
Do we have a motion?
I motion the recommended action.
Motion by Ms. Gonzalez.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Fabian. Any comments or questions on the motion? Roll call. I'll go ahead, Ms. Hannah.
Yeah, I am asking the board for us to be very conscious of what we are approving from here on out. I have asked before about reducing the spending, particularly in our foods, but I'm going to take this request across the board because of the different things that are going on in Washington that we have no control over, but we do have control over what we do here in our school district, and we may not be in problems right now with our finances, and we don't know in the future what's going to happen. So I am saying that the reduction in spending in the district overall needs to go down.
I think Ms. Hannah makes a positive point. I do know that the budget is being worked on. Invitations should be sent out shortly if they haven't gone out already for the budget workshop. That's something that our finance department watches very regularly. And so, if you know, that's noted. All right. Roll call.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Fabian?
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Pass.
Ms. Lensing?
Pass.
President Ewing?
Yes. Item approved, motion carries. All right, committee reports.
I have, Mr. Riddle, we want to do the.
No, go ahead, Ms. Hannah.
Okay, the committee, the wellness committee, was able to attend a professional development, and I don't want to, I'm just reporting that out, but I don't want to steal the thunder of Ms. Dobbs, and a report will be coming forth regarding the PD. but we are, we received our book. We have a book that we're reading in the Wellness Committee, The Anxious Generation, and how the great rewriting of childhood is causing an epidemic of mental illness. And so I'm sure it's going to be interesting. But Mr. Riddle, do you have anything else? Because
Not really. I think we're still working on
the posters.
on the posters and on the progress with getting our anti-vaping and
the
program and into our schools.
Right.
So we're working with the health department and with the NICASA.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ms. Fabian?
So the PTAC will be meeting this Thursday, the 13th at 5 at Juarez, or you can go on Zoom. If you need that Zoom link, you can reach out to student-outreach@wps60.org.
I wanted to say something to Board President.
Go ahead, Ms. Gonzalez.
And I don't know if you want, so Ms. Lensing and I sit on the Equity Advisory Council led by Dr. Fields. And we recently met virtually last week on Wednesday to talk about what the future of equity work really looks like in the district, considering all the federal changes and the challenges that we're seeing at the federal level. But I can say all of us on the council and everyone I'm sure who's participated on policy committee meetings, that they're committed to the work. And we've had to rethink some of the language in the equity policy that will soon be brought to the board at some point. But a lot of the focus and the effort that has been done under the direction of Dr. Fields and the FACE team is well underway. It's still going to move forward. We're just navigating this climate so that people aren't targeted, and so I just wanted to shout that out because that's something that a lot of folks have been waiting on. There's a lot of great events that are happening and that are being facilitated, but the work just is navigating different barriers. So more to come, but I wanted to say that. Unless you wanted to.
Yeah, I'll add on to that. And this is from a personal perspective, so I'm not saying this on behalf of the entire board, but it's very frustrating for our leaders in Washington to take this position against DEI, because really what it is breaking up the boys club on the golf course. DEI is intended to ensure that everyone truly does have a chance at succeeding in any career path they choose in this country. So to hear that people want it to be merit-based, that is what DEI is. So while I am grappling with how we stay true to making sure all of our students are seen, their individuality celebrated, and encouraged to just be their authentic selves, we, in my opinion, as a district, want to continue to facilitate that in our students and our staff, our families, and the larger community, while also adhering to federal law, to Ms. Gonzalez's point, so that we are not targeted and we are not losing the funds that this district desperately needs. So I'm really happy and thankful for the work that this committee is putting in to make sure that we are addressing the needs of our students so that they can succeed no matter what labels people want to put on them.
Thank you. Ms. Fabian?
I understand all the angst with the federal level, but I also want to remind everyone that we are, in my eyes, fortunately in a state that does support DEI, and we have several school code that also supports those initiatives. So we also have to be mindful to continue to follow our school code and ensure that we are teaching all of those mandates that we are required to teach.
Thank you. All right, delegates report.
Just a reminder for everyone, tomorrow evening, we do have our Spring Lakes Division dinner meeting. And I don't know if we are gonna ride the bus or if we are individually driving, but either way we'll find out, but hopefully everybody can attend.
Yeah, I think those that needed or requested transportation should have reached out to Jasmine and anybody else. We expect you to make your way there. All right, we have our superintendent's report at this time. Dr. Cesario. Are you leading that, Catherine?
Yes, I think it's Ms. Vanderbrook.
So this is just, again, we had this presentation ready to go, but while we were literally in the meeting, there were a bunch of executive actions that were overturned. So this is obviously the information that we know as of this point today, but it is a fluid situation as we continue to grapple with the impact of the executive actions. Go ahead, Ms. Vanderbroek.
Is the mic? There we go. I was asked to just give an overview of the executive orders and guidance that we have out to date in terms of some of the issues that are coming through. So this is really just meant to be an informational presentation. There are plans to do a further workshops with the board. We will speak to some other next steps at the end of the presentation. The topics we're going to cover are include DEI, DEIA, and environmental justice, equity ideology executive orders, orders addressing Title IX and gender ideology and parental rights in that context, school choice and parental rights, as well as briefly touch on English as the official language of the United States. Before I dive into the detail, the executive summary and the highlights of this is that it's fluid. It remains fluid. From a key piece on the question of federal funding, which is concern at multiple levels, not just at the local school level. There are a number of courts who have issued preliminary injunctions on stopping distribution of funds that have already been committed. Those preliminary injunctions, generally speaking, are not saying that the federal government has to continue to provide funds not already committed. Those cases as to the authority of the executive office as opposed to Congress to commit those funds are still working their way through the courts. There's also an executive order with respect to funding about school choice and expanding funding in that area for parents. As it comes to investigations, those investigations can go forward, and they are being opened by the Office of Civil Rights on their own initiative, as well as in response to complaints. Historically, the bulk of complaints that come, or investigations that are initiated, are as the result of an individual complaint, but we have seen things, for example, with respect to women in athletics under Title IX, OCR has initiated their own complaints on their own accord based on statements that Wisconsin Athletic Association, for example, indicated that they were looking for guidance from their Attorney General on a conflict of law, and that was enough for them, OCR, to open that investigation. So I do anticipate that active investigations will go on in alignment with how the executive orders are looking at DEI and Title IX and gender identity questions and issues. For Title IX itself, there are multiple cases that are working their way through the courts on a variety of different issues, some of which will ultimately have an impact in the schools in terms of what is the definition of sex, primarily use of pronouns, accepting names, and so forth. Those cases are not yet at final points, however. Where there are cases that were filed by transgender individuals, the Department of Justice is starting to drop those cases, and the courts are having to grapple with what does that mean in terms of whether the case should continue. So we're still watching and monitoring those closely. OCR has, however, put out specific guidance in an FAQ that schools and administrators should pay attention to, because that will be the guidelines they're looking at, and they're giving some examples as they do investigations, should an investigation be opened. I have not yet seen an FAQ related to Title IX. I have seen some legislation at the congressional level, H.R. 28, which seeks to amend Title IX with respect specifically to the participation of transgender females or males, as the executive orders put it, in women's sports. They have not addressed that with respect to transgender males or females participating in men's sports. There is, however, a shell bill out there, H.R. 1557, that has no content that has yet been posted. So we'll see where that goes. Senate Bill 9 was another bill that I believe has been defeated at this point, and it'll be H.R. 28 that goes forward. Those two bills were very similar. State guidance, as has been indicated by some of the board members today, is that state law, and both at the school code and the Illinois Department of Human Rights, those protections against non-discrimination, curriculum expectations continue to apply. The guidance that we are providing to staff and we as the administration is to continue to meet the individualized educational needs of students, making cases on a case-by-case determination, because as things evolve, particularly as they evolve in the courts and in the changes to legislation, it will inform what our obligations are and potentially impact those obligations at the state level as well. So the remaining slides are going to speak on some of these issues more specifically. Each content area at the outset, we do provide you with the titles of the executive orders or guidance or memoranda that we are referencing with the highlights that we've bulleted. And there are links for any of you who choose to look at it more directly. Hopefully all of the links work and will take you to the document cited. If for some reason you find a link doesn't work, please let us know and we'll try and correct that link. What I tried to do was just hit highlights of what is addressed in each of these areas. And very briefly, it's much of what I shared in the executive summary, so I won't stand on it for an extended period of time. It is a lot of detail on each slide. I do acknowledge that. But there is a pause on funding for activities associated with programs implicated by the executive orders. Now, this is what the order addresses. It's not necessarily the current state of affairs. With respect to DEI, DEIA, and environmental justice, what is quoted from one of the executive orders is that there is to be a termination of all discriminatory programs, including illegal DEI and diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, which is what DEIA stands for, if those weren't sure what the A was for. Mandates, policies, programs, preferences, and activities in the federal government under the name they appear, which includes equity-related grants or contracts, and all DEI or DEIA performance requirements for federal contractors or grantees. So when that area settles down and as it moves forward, for those federal funds that we do receive, we're going to need to be paying attention to how those get modified as they come forward. There's also language here in these executive orders which require a change to the certification statements when you sign off on accepting a grant from the federal government, that we are to agree that we are in compliance with the federal anti-discrimination laws that are material to the payment decisions, right? We're acknowledging that this is a material, compliance is material to the federal government giving us this information. And if we sign off on that and are deemed not to be in compliance by the federal government, we risk False Claims Act violations. And we also are to certify that we do not operate any programs promoting DEI that violate federal anti-discrimination laws. That's very broad language. What that means will depend on what we know at the time we're asked to sign off on anything. There's also information at the federal level that defines discriminatory equity ideology. It's a long definition. That's why it's not in here. So if you're interested, please look that one up. and to reestablish the 1776 Commission to promote patriotic education in schools. The agency recommendations to the President's office on how to enforce this are due by May 21st. And we do have some information that's been given to the public by OCR, as I mentioned previously at this point. And OCR has made it clear that if they are looking at discrimination issues and matters with respect to DEI, they will be using strict scrutiny, which is a very high bar to pass in order to have any programming or decisions that are supported based on looking at somebody's race, gender, sex, identity, etc. At the state level, ISB has recognized state protections against discrimination of specific protected classes, and we give you the list that ISB cited in their commentary. And the Illinois Attorney General similarly supports maintaining state law. There are no amendments that have been put out to the state rules that I'm aware of at this point. I did check earlier today. And I have not seen anything that has been put forward at the state level to amend the Illinois Human Rights Act or anything in the school code arising out of these executive orders at this time. I do think it was an important clarification from the Illinois Attorney General to differentiate practices that promote diversity, equity, and inclusion from those that are preferences in hiring and programming involvement. So that is an important clarification from them. And then what are the key considerations that come out of the information addressed in these orders? I've mentioned OCR will be doing investigations and is initiating those. The FAQ will give additional guidance that as we're looking at programming internally, we should be mindful of how the OCR will be looking at those questions overall. And existing contract termination, certification, and enforcement provisions are preliminary and joined based on a court case, but not investigations, and I've cited the case. I don't believe we've had any further orders in either of these cases that would give a final order coming out that may be appealable. We're still in the hearing stages on that. So the important piece there is, in particular, that the certification language on the grants, at this point, there's a preliminary injunction from that being enforced, and that is a nationwide injunction.
Are you finished with the presentation?
This may be a good time to take a pause because I'm about to flip to Title IX. So if we'd like to take a pause and questions, I'm open to that, and I'll do my best to answer.
I've just been thinking about it, ever since the stuff started, right? And is this contradictory?
Yes.
Wait.
Absolutely.
Wait.
Welcome to the U.S.
I don't mean to laugh.
Welcome.
But
otherwise we'd cry.
Right. Yeah. This is contradictory to the 14th Amendment of the U.S.
It depends on who you ask.
Yeah.
If you read the OCR FAQ, they will outline in great detail how they interpret the law.
That's what's wrong with the law. It's always being interpreted by man. Look, read it the way it's supposed to be. But anyway.
Well, there's two different lenses, right? There's the laws as
Right.
written and laws as
And
interpreted.
as you all know, lawyers make arguments.
Yeah, but it just smells so much of it being just so. Number one, it's hypocritical. Number two, it's in direct violation of the 14th Amendment.
The cases that are out there are being argued based on First Amendment viewpoint discrimination, procedural matters under the 14th Amendment, flat out discrimination. We are not seeing as many cases filed. I'm not saying I know them all, so they may be out there, that are specific to discrimination under Title IX, they're really challenging separation of powers. What is the authority of the executive agency to dictate that versus Congress's power to issue over the purse, to issue funding? So it's very fluid, as I started. It's fluid and it is changing, and we are still looking at meeting the needs of students on an individualized basis and making cases on a case-by-case basis, decisions on a case-by-case basis at the point in time an issue comes to us, because things are moving.
Ms. Lindsay.
I just want a reminder out to our community that we have representatives in this state. To Ms. Fabian's point, we are Democratic, and it is leaning more towards what we are doing here in our district for our students in our community. However, if anything that you're hearing tonight is against what you want, please connect with your local representatives along with your state representatives. I know Schneider's holding town halls. Please reach out. We can't solve these case problems. To Ms. Vanderbroek's point, we are tracking and monitoring and adjusting as appropriate. You need to escalate beyond the school board if you disagree with these cases.
So I will remind the school board, you're sitting as a board, and we need to keep the board activity separate from politics.
Apologies.
We
Thank
are
you.
nonpartisan, and these are nonpartisan issues
just
that are messed up
just a reminder.
and impact school funding and student outcomes.
So I'm gonna continue from this point if there is nothing else specific to the DEI executive orders. Okay. Title IX, again, we have the various orders that are out there in the OCR, as well as DHHS guidelines. The DHHS guidelines are where you will find a definition of sex, female, and several other terms that the executive orders have asked be clarified through the agency actions. In this case, these executive orders and statements from OCR and DHHS identify that federal policy is to recognize only two sexes, male and female. It defines the terms sex, woman or girl, man or boy, male, female, mother, father, gender ideology, gender identity. You will find those spelled out in detail in the DHHS guidelines. It directs rescinding of federal funds to programs that support male participation in female sports, social transition, or gender ideology. That funding piece, remember, those are the ones where the courts have ordered existing funds that have been committed cannot be pulled back, but new funds do not have to be committed, is where the courts seem to be on that. The order also looks to restore single-sex intimate spaces. That has not yet been defined per se, but I believe that is bathrooms and locker rooms. It requires parental notice of a student's social transition, such as a student asked to have their preferred pronouns or name changes recognized in the school setting. And OCR enforcement efforts, again, will be based on a recognition of only two sexes. Under the key considerations, you will see they are determining one's sex based on the biological ability to produce eggs or sperms as determined at the time of birth. So that is part of the DHSS definition. ISB, again, recognized state protections against discrimination of specific classes. I reiterate what those classes are here. Under the Illinois Human Rights Act, sexual orientation, it's clear in regulations, is where they're picking up protections for gender identity. We spoke a little bit about the congressional activity on the House Resolution 28. Funding is at risk, as with many other things in the executive orders, because that is the stick that they have with these orders, is to pull your funding. If they find non-compliance, there is one court case I am aware of where a preliminary injunction was issued. It affects the plaintiffs only, who were two transgender individuals attempting to participate in female sports. So this one is not a nationwide injunction. There may be a case out there that has that established. I just was not able to catch it before today's meeting. I'm not 100% sure on that. If not now, I'm expecting there will be one soon. But the issue there is what cases are they dropping that have been in progress in the courts, and how are the courts handling that versus the new cases that they're bringing on behalf of cisgender individuals who are expressing concerns. So that's Title IX. School choice, there is one executive order on this. It basically announces the federal policy to expand money available for parents to choose to send their students to private, faith-based, or public charter schools. We don't know exactly how that might impact monies that are available for public schools. So we're waiting to see what that looks like as more information is fleshed out. And they are prioritizing educational freedom in the Department of Education discretionary grant programs, but we don't know what the Department of Education is going to look like ultimately based on a recent announcement that was made by the newly appointed head, but we have no details. But she has acknowledged that her role is to start to dismantle and downsize the Department of Education, but we don't have details on that, and I don't have any links in the presentation to that statement. If you search it on the website, if you're interested, you can probably find her statement. The last piece that I have pulled out as being specifically applicable, but not necessarily sure how, in the school setting is English as the official language of the United States. And the key piece here is that it is giving federal agencies discretion as to whether or not to continue to ensure that individuals who don't speak English can access information by requiring it be translated or whatnot on websites. So the order gives the federal agencies the discretion whether to pull down translated pages, for example, versus have them up all in English. It also removes the executive order that was put in place in 2000 that otherwise required federal agencies and fund recipients to ensure there was meaningful access to governmental information and programs and services. So again, we don't have specific guidance. This guidance should be coming from the Department of Justice according to the executive order. I did not see any published as of today. This order is relatively new though, March 1st of 2025. Yes, ma'am.
Just with the English as an official language, I'm just wondering, have you looked into how this is going to impact the bilingual program? Because, see, that's a federal program.
Mm-hmm.
And do we know how it's going to impact that and the funding?
Not at this time. I haven't seen any guidance around it. I have been waiting for some guidance to come out speaking to Title III, which is where I think much of that funding comes from to support bilingual programming. I was encouraged that the executive order itself gave the federal agencies discretion. I'm hopeful that will continue to allow states and local agencies to exercise discretion, but I anticipate there will be a drop in funding to support getting that done. I do believe that the government is interested in those who do not speak English learning English, so that may be one that there may not be as much effect as in the areas of DEI and Title IX, but that's purely speculation at this point.
And I just want to end by saying that we do get money for the bilingual program, right? Mm-hmm. But much of that funding is local. And so would it even be impacted if the money is local?
I don't believe so, but it's going to depend on how they roll out their compliance pieces and whether or not that somehow is affected by somebody asserting discrimination somehow because there's money going to teach individuals to learn English. I don't know, we don't have guidance at this point other than the federal government is encouraging people to learn English and acknowledging that they want individuals in the United States to speak English.
And so, okay, yes, there are federal, all these are federal executive orders, but as my colleague said earlier about the state, we are bound by our state. Yes?
We are bound to comply with both state and federal law as the federal law applies to us.
Well, and I guess maybe I should restate it. We have to wait until the state is kind of like the flow through money, go from the feds to the state and then down to the districts. And so the state has not received anything on this that you know?
The only thing I've seen from the state is the superintendent's message that is linked in, I think, the first slide on DEI. And that message was to continue to comply with the dictates in the school code, which would include serving our English learner population. And there have been no amendments presented with respect to that statute.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I was speaking more in general terms than just bilingual, but yeah.
And only, I'm going to go to Ms. Lindsay, but because I do want to remind the board that I wanted you all to be briefed, I think it's important for the community to know what all we're up against, but it is still really fluid. And so to kind of go in depth, or I know Ms. Vanderbroek was also hesitant to kind of do the game plan, is because things are changing. She uses the term fluid, but it's almost daily at minimum. Priorities are shifting.
Sometimes hourly.
And the superintendent has a plan for next steps. So if we can go to next steps, we can
I want Ms.
identify
Lindsay
for
to
everybody
get
what the next steps are as
her
well.
question out, and
Sure.
then we can do that.
I just want to reiterate a point that you had made that I just want to make sure is extremely clear, and correct me if I'm off base. But to your point, yes, we have to comply with both state and federal laws, and when they're in conflict with each other,
Right.
that is where the big discussions are going to need to happen.
Right.
And while we don't know what they are right now, I would assume that those are eventually coming.
Yes, and I would assume that the courts will be addressing them.
These are the concepts of the plan.
These are.
I'm sorry.
I appreciate the statement, right? You know, that ultimately at some point this board may be faced with the decision, do you want to do A or do you want to do B?
And what are the
And we don't know if we will be the case of first impression if you choose one over the other. We will make decisions on a case-by-case basis. In the interim, meet the individualized needs of students, irrespective of race, gender, sex, sexual orientation, religion, national origin, etc.
I'm going to have you speak to the next steps, and then if you still have your question, Ms. Fabian.
Thank you. So next steps that the superintendent and administrative team have put forward include continuing, as I've said, to meet the individual needs of all students on a case-by-case basis, monitoring the developments and ensuring that significant developments are communicated to those that are impacted by the decisions, and inform our obligations. She does plan to schedule board workshops to discuss aligning district activity with the federal mandates. We will also be looking at policies, programs, and practices that may be affected, and looking for direction from the board as to what you would like us to be doing in that regard at any point in time. What you might all agree is appropriate today might not be where you stand in a month or in 6 months, nor may the issues that we have to consider still be the same in 6 months. So it is still fluid, but we are trying to know what might be in play and have some ideas about what we would need to do and when and so forth, and that will be part of what I understand the board workshops will address in part, but I'm not running the workshops, so if I have not accurately described that, the superintendent will set me straight. And she should. And also to keep all stakeholders informed. So it is a fluid process. This was an initial step to make sure that the board and the community were aware of the orders that are out there that are most impactful on the school setting, and then have you be able to think about that, access those documents to support having a further dialogue.
Ms. Fabian, you still had your question?
More of a comment just to the community that, again, these are executive orders, so I don't want us to cause panic and think that all of these things are going to happen, but at the same time, it's what we've been saying this entire time, right? If you stay prepared, you don't have to get prepared. So
right.
if we kind of can look at all of those different ways that we can be impacted, so we have a plan, like you said, A, B, and C, but I also want to be mindful that we're not causing mass panic or that people are getting super anxious because, again, nothing is set in stone and it changes so quickly that, I mean, even within the same day. So thank you for all of the information because it is a lot to digest.
Yes, thank you.
Ms. Lindsay, final question?
So, no, you're fine. I had sent this in an email, and I understand if it didn't trickle its way to you for this presentation. But as we continue to have these conversations, I think having the dollar amount of federal funds potentially at risk as we navigate these conversations for clarity purposes is going to help us, right? So as we kind of ebb and flow with what's going to happen, with what is happening, with has been signed, sealed, delivered, this is happening, we need to know in order to make these decisions on where we're going to land, we need to know the financial impact tied to it.
Absolutely.
Dr. Cesario, Mr. Moten, you caught that? Thank you.
All right.
We don't always know, but we should have some information.
Yeah, we should. Yeah, that's very important.
All right, for your report is there for information. We do have old business board policy 6040.
It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the amendments to Board Policy 6040, discipline of students as presented for second reading.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr.
Second.
Riddle, seconded by Ms. Gonzalez. Any comments or questions on the motion? And again, these are after a PTAC review and technical changes based on changes in code and law. All in favor, roll call.
Mr. McBride? Ms. Fabian?
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Pass.
Ms. Lindsay?
Yes.
President Ewing?
Yes, item approved, motion carries. Item 19B, Board Policy 6048, use of isolated timeout and physical restraint, second reading.
It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the amendments to Board Policy 6048, use of isolated timeout, and physical restraint, as set forth for second reading.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Riddle, seconded by Ms. Gonzalez. Any comments or questions on the motion? Roll call.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Fabian?
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
No.
Ms. Lindsay?
Yes.
President Ewing?
Yes, item approved, motion carries. We now have new business, so this is a discussion item that was brought forward by Ms. Linsing. So she did post a draft resolution, which was available and visible to the board. So it's not being submitted as I mean, it's discussion. No, I know it's not an action. My question is, if the board decides that it wants to act on it from a process standpoint, do we have to bring it forward for a first and a second? Or if there's adequate support, will we be able to vote on it at the next meeting? It's being introduced in this meeting.
I'll look and see what our practice has been with the other resolutions.
Okay, that's fair. All right, go ahead if you want to introduce the topic, Ms. Lindsay.
Of course. So we've had several discussions as a board with regard to the climate in our district, with the sense of belonging that we want to foster with our students. And while we are navigating the very fluid waters in front of us, I thought it was good to reinforce that while some things may be changing, we are staying true to what we are wanting to accomplish within this district. And so this resolution is just recognizing that we value all of our student, staff, families, and community members. We appreciate them for things that they have in common, for things that they have different. And in order to create a safe environment and create an actual community within the school district, there's some things that we want to make sure that we continue to do. One of such things is creating traditions and maintaining any traditions. So I know during public comment, it was talked about having performances during the halftime at basketball games. We have Principal for a Day within this district. We have our homecoming parade where various organizations create floats and go through the community. So I wanted to create a resolution that essentially reinforces many of the things that we're doing and keep it at the forefront of everyone's mind that we are committed to this community and we want to do best by everyone involved.
The other thing that we wanted, so to specifically tied to the comment, we have to do a better job of explaining when there are changes. So I know me and Mr. McBride had conversations. I know Mr. Alexakis was probably annoyed with the phone calls and emails, but when we host sectionals or some of these other events, sometimes there are rules that we have to follow. And so while our Bulldogs were playing, whoever would have been in that game would have been playing. It just so happened that we were at home.
Right.
And so some of those things don't happen during sectionals or aren't able to. Or if you have the band, that may mean that you also limit the number of seating. So I'm not saying that that's a reason not to do it, just to give greater context specifically to the comments like why didn't we do those things during that specific game. It's because that specific game
Was the championship
was
tournament
was
with rules.
part of the rules with IHSA. The school district, Waukegan, was following the IHS rules, and maybe at another time our athletic director could come and present on that, because that's something that we asked to do, which is to host the sectionals and the regionals. It's not something that we are required to do as a school district. So
we have always it's kind of like like an honor.
It is, and I think that's
for
why
our district to be chosen to hold the sectionals here. You know, it's always been, and I certainly hope that that we can continue with that with that bit of tradition. And I just I love the fact that we are promoting a culture of respect, you know, and fostering a sense of belonging for every student and staff member, and that we are prioritizing safety, the well-being of students, staff, family, and community. And this is really big, that we create spaces free of bullying, harassment, and discrimination, not only among students, but this is among the adults, the administration, everyone involved in our district community. And I am hoping, I give kudos to Ms. Lindsay for bringing forth this resolution, because at this point in time, I mean, we've been sitting here and we hear many things, many complaints that that students have, staff have, family have, community members have, and this resolution is the beginning of trying to get some kind of I don't know. I don't want to say. Well, to me, it'll be normalcy. Normalcy back into District 60, and so thank you so much, Ms. Lindsay, for this, and I certainly hope the rest of the board is on board with this resolution. Thank you.
Yeah.
Board President?
Go ahead, Mr. Riddle.
Yeah, again, I'd like to thank Ms. Lenzing as well for this. I think, certainly this expresses what the board feels about climate and culture and traditions. And I think we've been doing a lot of this stuff, but it puts it down on paper that this is something that is most important for our students and our staff. And I like the fact that some of the resolutions are looking for new ways to encourage this among our students, also honoring traditions, but also looking at ways which is to not only improve through focus group surveys, participatory meetings, but also, number 9 says regularly assess and evaluate our school culture. And I think maybe that's one area we may have been lacking, and that we don't do enough of that. Asking students, asking staff, how do you feel? What can we do differently? Letting them bring some input. So I like this resolution. I don't see any reason why the board couldn't, approve something like this and put it down that this is something we feel is most important. I don't know if we have a policy on climate and culture that expresses all of these ideas. So thank you very much. I certainly support a resolution like this.
And just to piggyback off of Mr. Riddle, I would like to see something in here regarding like staff surveys.
That's in here.
Staff satisfaction surveys.
Yeah, that's number 11.
You put that in there?
11, that's item 11.
Okay, very good.
And the other part that's good about this, Ms. Hannah,
no, go ahead.
Is the very final thing, that be it further resolved, the superintendent and staff are directed to develop and implement a plan to carry out these actions as outlined in this resolution. So again, it's directing our staff, which is what really policy is supposed to be doing.
That's
that
right.
a board is not, we're not doing it, the administration is doing it, the staff are doing it. It shows how important, a sense of belonging is for success. And we all need it. So it's just recognizing a human need that we've talked about many times as a board, but it's putting it down as a resolution. So I certainly support what you've written here. Thank you so much, Ms. Lindsay.
Thank you. Yeah, and this is one of the things where from even us as a team, to your point, Mr. Riddle, there are pieces of different policies, right? We do have one on student supports and bullying and, all of those things. But the resolution is how the board speaks with one voice. And so a lot of times when I promote it, draft the resolution, and that way it allows us to have something to discuss, and it allows us to speak with a voice. I do support the culture and climate, and kind of more pointedly, I'll speak to why part of this was brought up. We have a tradition. It's a song. It's a song that's been played in the high school for decades. And the band appreciated it. It was something that between the classes, right? Whether you graduated in 01 or 97, you or 11. Well, I don't know, Miss Hannah. Dirty Bird went down in 75, but you, but we will have it. And so again, this is not targeting that individual, but it goes to when we talk about understanding culture. Is there maybe something like the Dirty Bird that people say, oh, it may offend you, but that's not necessarily your prerogative, and I'll say it, to change that tradition or culture, especially if you don't understand the significance of the history or the connection that it has. So part of this is the band has a song. We have a school song. I think we should teach our school song, right? Because when it comes on, no matter where I am, it's like I probably stand for that more than I stand for the players sometimes. But you will, is you stand, you clap with it. There's a cadence. It ties us all together. You know, the purple, green, and gold, the history of the eye patch, right? What that means, how you honor the legacy of the two buildings. These are things that were taught to me. I transplanted to Waukegan in middle school, but I was able to learn about the history, and I appreciated it, and that's why I want to give that experience. And I agreed with Ms. Lindsay when she proposed it, to bring those traditions back and to memorialize them. I think sometimes it's unintentional that things get lost. Like we actually had a situation where a principal reached out, not a principal, a teacher reached out to me about we put up a mural at the school. Again, I graduated middle school in 2006, so that seems like a long time ago now. And again, the school has a right for the kids that go there now to be able to have their own traditions. But how can you also honor, you know, that mural and that history? And a lot of times, if you weren't there 30 years ago, 20 years ago, right, it may not have the same level of significance that you have. So I do want to say, I want us to bring back the Dirty Bird. There is a petition to bring back the song, so it has only about 110 signatures, but that also shows the.
If I would have known, I would have.
No, he said it. He sent it to me because I got tagged in the post, literally saying, I really appreciated the dog pound being packed.
Yeah.
But what about the Dirty Bird and who got rid of it and why they get rid of it? And I said, well, it's not a board issue, but we will be discussing preserving traditions at the board meeting. So. I support it. If you guys do have changes or, you know, some suggestions, I know Kathy would want to review it and may have some technical suggestions that she can present, and then we can bring it back for a first reading. All right, it's 8:38. So what I do want to do is we have a couple, and we do have to read the entire. All right. Fine. Can't say it is drafted. All right, fine. Just the conversation for those that are watching online was just we have some lengthy resolutions, and I was seeing if we could take those together. We cannot, so we will take them separately. Item 21A, expulsion proceedings, student number ending in 384.
Whereas following a building level investigation, student XXX384 was determined to have possessed a weapon while at school, which under school code requires a mandatory referral for expulsion for a period of at least 1 year, unless modified by the superintendent, whose decision may be modified by the board. Parentheses 105 ILCS 5/10-22.6 D2. Whereas the Board of Education of Waukegan Community Unit School District Number 60 did receive and consider the principal's recommendation and superintendent's agreement to modify the mandatory expulsion period for student XXX384 and the reasons therefore, and whereas the modification proposed is in the best interest of the district and the student, and based on a totality of the circumstances, supports the maintenance of a safe school environment free of disruptive influences, which can be a distraction to learning while continuing to hold the student accountable for the student's conduct. Now, therefore, it is hereby resolved that 1, the whereas clauses are adopted herein by reference as findings of the board. 2, the board concurs with the superintendent's modification of the mandatory minimum expulsion period to 3 days out of school suspension, the days already having been served, a board reprimand, and an individualized safety plan. 3, the superintendent or the superintendent's designee is to notify the parents of student XXX384 in writing of the board's determination within the next 5 school business days. This resolution is effective upon approval by the board. I motion to approve as read.
Got a motion by Ms. Lindsay.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Riddle. Any comments or questions on the motion? Roll call.
Mr. McBride? Ms. Fabian?
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Pass.
Ms. Lensing?
Yes.
President Ewing?
Yes, item approved, motion carries. Item 21B, expulsion proceedings, student number ending in 573. Who has the resolution?
I do not have that, sorry.
Ms. Fabian.
Whereas, following a building level investigation, student XXX 573 was determined to have possessed a weapon while at school, which under the school code requires a mandatory referral for expulsion for a period of at least 1 year unless modified by the superintendent, whose decision may be modified by the board under 105 Illinois Compiled Statute 510 through 22 6D2. Whereas the Board of Education of Waukegan Community Unit School District Number 60 did receive and consider the principal's recommendation and superintendent's agreement to modify the mandatory expulsion period for student XXX 573 and the reasons therefore. And whereas the modification proposed is in the best interest of the district and the student and based on the totality of the circumstances supports the maintenance of a safe school environment, free of disruptive influences which can be a distraction to learning while continuing to hold the student accountable for the student's conduct. Now, therefore, it is hereby resolved that the whereas clauses are adopted herein by reference as findings of the board. 2, the board concurs with the superintendent's modification of the mandatory minimum expulsion period of 5 days out of school suspension, the days already having been served, a board reprimand, and an individualized safety plan. And 3, the superintendent or the superintendent's designee is to notify the parents of student XXX 573 in writing of the board's determination within the next 5 school business days. This resolution is effective upon approval of the board.
Motion to approve the resolution is read.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Lindsay, seconded by Mr. Riddle. Any comments or questions on the motion? Roll call.
Mr. McBride? Ms. Fabian?
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Pass.
Ms. Lensing?
Yes.
President Ewing?
Yes, item approved, motion carries. We are now at 21C, expulsion proceedings for student number ending 206.
Whereas following a building level investigation, student XXX206 was determined to have possessed a weapon while at school, which under the school code requires a mandatory referral for expulsion for a period of at least 1 year, unless modified by the superintendent, whose decision may be modified by the board, parentheses 105 ILCS 5/10-22.6D2. Whereas the Board of Education of Waukegan Community Unit School District Number 60 did receive and consider the principal's recommendation and superintendent's agreement to modify the mandatory expulsion period for student XXX206 and the reasons therefore. And whereas the modification proposed is in the best interest of the district and the student, and based on a totality of the circumstances, supports the maintenance of a safe school environment free of disruptive influences, which can be a distraction to learning while continuing to hold the student accountable for the student's conduct. Now, therefore, it is hereby resolved that 1, the whereas clauses are adopted herein by reference as findings of the board. 2, the board concurs with the superintendent's modification of the mandatory minimum expulsion period to 3 days of out-of-school suspension, the days already having been served, and an individualized safety plan. 3, the superintendent or the superintendent's designee is to notify the parents of student XXX206 in writing of the board's determination within the next 5 school business days. 4, this resolution is effective upon approval by the board. I move that we approve the resolution as read.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Lindsay, seconded by Mr. Riddle. Any comments or questions on the motion? Roll call.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Fabian?
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Lensing?
Yes.
President Ewing?
Yes, item approved, motion carries. Item 22A, board member time. Love my board. Last board member time took 38 minutes. I didn't time it. It was sent to me. But I say that just again, this is our opportunity for the board to speak. And so a lot of times we get to hear from the community. So it is an important time. I do just want to make sure, although I won't be your president for too much longer, one of my biggest complaints is the length of meetings. So you all are holding us up. Ms. Fabian.
5 Essentials is open. Please take that if you want to share your opinions on how we are doing as a school. Again, those links should have been sent out. That information has been texted and emailed out to parents. And then if we could also get the information for military ball sent to us, that would be appreciated. And on board with the traditions, if we could look at also how the history of Waukegan is taught throughout the curriculum from K through 12, because I know that's something that hasn't been specifically pulled out in our, or highlighted in our curriculum.
Lindsay.
Oh, I just wasn't sure if we were bouncing. To that point, I remember being a junior and having a Waukegan project, and I talked about the distillery we used to have, so I'm all in support of that. It's been a busy time, everybody. So I'm just going to go through some of the lovely events that I got to partake in just within this last week. I was invited to do reading at Clark again. I always love that they invite the board and other members of the community to come read to the students for both Black History Month and Women's History Month. Miss McLaughlin's class was fabulous. They did not know about Aretha Franklin, and that broke my heart. So maybe we can infuse that in our curriculum as well. It was a shame. It was a shame. So we taught them about that. And muchas gracias a la clase de la señora García, que me ayudó a leer en español hoy. Su ayuda con mi pronunciación. I know. They taught me, and then I lost it. Pronunciación. I was practicing. Me ha alegrado el corazón y espero que tengas un excelente resto del año escolar. So basically that was thanks to Ms. Garcia's class for helping me read to them in Spanish today, helping me with my pronunciation, which I still need practice on, and I hope you have a great rest of your school year. On top of that, over the weekend, the Waukegan Symphony had a performance in the Trapp Auditorium for a Disney sing-along. I attended that. It was really great to see some of the Park District kids do some of the backup choir for them. That was really fun. I did attend the Color Ball with Mr. Ewing and Miss Hannah. People came lavishly dressed, and I am just so impressed, and I hope that becomes a new tradition. It was great to see everybody excited, and I talked to many of the kids, and they're just like, I loved it. Some were running, playing tag, some were dancing their heart out, some were getting a sugar rush. It was great all around. So many, many kudos to the Cook staff. It was great. And then last but not least, I know 2 of our community members said it during public comment, but I also wanted to do a shout out to the Waukegan basketball team and coach and the Waukegan community. So I graduated in 2004, and we had a pretty good team. I know Mr. Jeremy Richmond's team was a little bit better. They made it down to state, but I just haven't seen that reinvigoration in such a long time. And to be in the dog pound with a large sense of community, with everyone just cheering on these kids, was so wonderful, to the point where it was a hard loss. Y'all fought, y'all did great, 2 overtimes. We are so very proud of you. You did a very good job. And then the next day, just seeing community members at Drip and Culture congratulating one of the basketball players, I'm not gonna name names, on a job well done. That was great to see, and we need to have more community involvement. And it took me back to my high school days and why I love this community. So I just wanna thank you for bringing that nostalgia back and having a great game. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Ms. Hannah.
I too was busy this week. I attended the HVAC open house, and that was amazing, as everybody witnessed with the spotlight on 60. The color ball was just fabulous. I mean, the enthusiasm that I saw in the students and the parents, it was just wonderful. And one of the things that struck me was that that all of the refreshments that were there, and I mean, it was over a ton.
Don't tell them no, Miss Hannah.
Well, families brought it in.
No, that's what I was saying. No, I'm telling you, what was amazing about it was that the families.
No, I'm joking because of the
Well, this probably. Well, you know what? Look,
it's a good night. It was a fun night. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It was a very fun night, and it was amazing. It was amazing because of the support that the parents gave, and I doubt very seriously. I don't know, but I'm presuming that that no district money was spent on all of that, all those refreshments, and that they were brought by the parents. That's excellent. Anyway, hopefully again that will that color ball will continue. I attended the Glenwood Black History program, the Greenwood Black History program. There was some the students were good, and I just want to give kudos to all of the staff that worked hard to put that together. The wellness committee, I spoke about that earlier, where there was a PD, I think it was 5 members of the wellness committee that attended the PD. And the thing is, right, here's the good thing. It was free. They had 5 hours of professional development surrounding students and helping with the alcohol, smoking, vaping, all of that, the things that we're now talking about now. And so I don't want to go any further because, like I say, Ms. Dobbs will be presenting. I was going to talk about the halftime cheerleaders too, and a comment by a community member was that a funeral was more lively. And that, I'm like, oh my goodness, you know. But anyway, I certainly hope that we can bring back some of the traditions, because you know that's the traditions are that's why we have alumni. The alumni, I mean, why would we need alumni if we remove traditions? And so we here in Waukegan, we're not gonna just readily let our traditions be taken away. And so that's priority, one of my priorities, aside from student reading. But the last thing, I don't know if anyone saw it on Sunday, Channel 7 Sunday News. They interviewed Mrs. Sakurowski from Bravo Waukegan, and they highlighted our school with Bravo, and they showed our students playing the violins and everything right there on Channel 7 News. And so I say bravo to Miss Sakurowski and everything that she has done over the years for our school district, for our students. And many of our students have went on to use the musical talents as their careers and stuff. We have Lee England?
Mm-hmm.
One of our, Lee England, but Ms. Sakurowski, thank you so much for all of everything that you're doing. I remember when Bravo just started. It was only a few students, and it has blossomed, and many students enjoy that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hannah. Mr. McBride?
Yeah, speaking of school, Mario, I was sitting in that gym and I was kind of looking up at the rafter. It's before my time, but I seen Otto Palmer Graham. And I was thinking about what happened to Corky Calhoun that left here and went to play for the NBA. Then I started thinking about Ray Sean that went and played for the NFL. I'm wondering, why are their pictures not in that rafter?
Right.
Because we only get maybe one or two out of Waukegan ever make it that far, just like Otto Graham did. So I would like to, whoever get a chance to talk to Colette, to get Mr. Calhoun in them Raptors, because we might not see that a long time.
Right.
If somebody leave, he'll go to the NBA.
Right.
We did do Jeremy. They did have him on 41. They did recognize him and put him up on one of those billboards and stuff, and for the state. But also, I say yes to the modification of expulsions, but again, trying to go along with quite a status quo with the board, trying to compromise and reason with the board in terms of trying to be sympathetic towards our children. But when you're wrong, and that's the bottom line to it. But I think that we could do a little bit more in terms of getting the message out that it's wrong to bring anything into school that's harmful, period. And I think if we had to stop, the teachers just have to stop in each classroom and make that clear, because apparently it's not being clear because it's happening too much. Simple as that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McBride. Mr. Riddle?
Yes, I would just also want to thank Mrs. Sigarovsky and her husband, who's passed away. But 15 years ago, they started Bravo Waukegan, and the Lake County community that can afford to help us out has done a fabulous job with so many of our students. They have an honorary benefit this Saturday, and it's the 15th year they're honoring her, and of course it's a fundraising event as well. Some of us will be attending that. Anyway, I wanted to also mention that if you are a graduating student this year and you're looking for some scholarships, I just wanted to make you aware that the Waukegan Park District every year gives out 5 $1,000 scholarships to students who are either going to college in the fall or plan on attending a career education place such as CLC, or and they have to have some idea that they were going to do something that would be somewhat related to parks. It can be maintenance, it can be horticulture, it can be anything like that. But there's an application online. If you go to waukeganparks.org/scholarships, there's an application up there that tells you all the details. Fill it out. 5 of our students will get that scholarship this year. You have to get the application in by June the 10th. And then I want to do a shout out to Charles Jordan and his twin brother Matthew, who were highlighted in an article in yesterday's New Sun. Both of those young men, this is their 5th year attending Waukegan schools. They started as in kindergarten at Cook School, and both of those young men are in the bilingual education program that's the dual language. So we have about 7,000 students that are in whose native language is not English. But we also offer to students who want to learn a foreign language, especially Spanish. They can start as early as kindergarten at Oakdale, at Cook, and then we may be offering it at another school. And these young men talk about what a blessing it has been in their lives. They can now speak, write, and have friends who are multicultural. So it's been a great blessing to them. They're both of them. If you didn't see the story, look back into yesterday's New Sun, because both of these young men talk about what a great thing it has been for them. They will continue right through high school, so they'll get a bilingual certification on their diploma when they graduate. So it's a terrific program. And then along that line, I visited. As well as was Miss Hannah, besides our own program here at the Waukegan, Washington campus, the HVAC program. I had the opportunity last week to visit the tech campus out at CLC, and I'm just really pleased that we have around 200 students that attend that. All kinds of programs out there. They have just expanded their welding. So they've got a second welding lab now that they were just showcasing, and touring the campus again and seeing all of the different careers that students can get into and the excitement that goes on at that campus. I just would encourage students in Waukegan, apply for that. You can get into it your junior and senior year. In many cases, you can earn a certificate or even almost an associate degree by the time you graduate, and get certified in a lot of different things. Different programs. You might become an EMT. You might get into food service. You might get into welding. There's great needs for a lot of those jobs, and they won't be going away. Those jobs will be there. And then the other thing I did, just wanted to highlight, was I had an opportunity to visit the new museum. You may have seen it going on. The Waukegan Park District, along with the Historical Society, have been renovating the Carnegie Library. And that is phenomenal. It isn't opened yet, but the exhibits are pretty much completed, and I'm just encouraging people in the spring, late spring or early summer, when that museum opens. It is going to be wonderful for Waukegan students and families. You're going to be able to learn the history of Waukegan. There's also a Ray Bradbury room, because one of our students who was in Waukegan schools got his education really by going to the library and became an internationally famous author. His name is Ray Bradbury, and they've got a whole room dedicated to Ray. So there's some fabulous exhibits there. Waukegan has needed something like that, and there was some grant money available in the Park District, along with the Historical Society, has done a wonderful job in planning exhibits, renovating that building, and definitely get yourself in there. The other thing about it, all the exhibits are in English and in Spanish. So all our community, they did that deliberately so that members of our community who have a little trouble with English can read it in Spanish. So it's just a great museum. It will become open very soon, certainly by this summer. So you want to do that. Thank you.
Ms. Gonzalez.
Last but not least, I'm proudly wearing blue today in solidarity with educators to stand against federal funding freezes. And I also am wearing proudly blue to celebrate and honor my Ron Clark Academy House, Revoir. In French, the word means dreamer or idealist. I actually met some students from Cook who are also of my house during the Black History Month celebration, who taught me about the Black Rosies, forgotten heroines, African-American heroines of World War II. And I'm proudly wearing it because I actually couldn't go to the color ball, but I've heard from fellow board members and other folks that it was an awesome time and everyone showed out. I also wanted to say congratulations to all the Bulldog players and Coach Ashlaw for leaving it all on the court. To be honest, I feel like they played hard on Wednesday, and then having to play again on Friday under all that pressure was incredible. I loved seeing the community come out I know the outcome isn't what we wanted, but we still came together to see both teams play, enjoy friendly competition, and to hopefully encourage these students to keep at this because they are really great athletes. And I do congratulate our neighbors for winning. You know, I was really impressed by their gameplay too, over at Warren. I also want to shout out a couple things that we have going on this week. We have an MSEL, the African American Male Initiative Task Force meeting this week. And then on Saturday, we have an event going on called You Belong, the Breaking Barriers, which faces hosting. So I'm hoping to be a part of that as a volunteer. And I do want to wish a happy late International Women's Day to everyone out there. And last but not least, I do want to echo what Ms. Granda was saying about having grammar help in high school for all students. You know, Ms. Hannah talks about literacy a lot. And I think that one of the biggest things for me about pitching and supporting the restructuring of the credits was so that students could get remedial help. So, you know, at any phase of their educational journey, it doesn't hurt to help reinforce some of the foundational skills that all students can use later on in life. So, thanks, everyone. That's it.
And I just one thing.
Go ahead, Ms. Heather.
I just want, speaking about scholarships, I don't want us to forget, and those listening, the retired teachers also are offering scholarships. And so hopefully talk with the administration. They should have the information, but I want to shout out to the retired teachers for bringing that forth. Yeah.
And we have the Waukegan Schools Foundation scholarship up as well. So no shortage of opportunities.
ECU and a lot of these
Just
scholarships
apply.
go unapplied too. So just make sure you look those up. I have the final comments, and I'll break my own rule. No, I'm joking. I'll get through it fast. But I did want to say, just personally, again, I know that I'm exiting, but the attack on diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility is appalling, you know, to me as a black man, because it represents a direct assault on the progress that generations before me fought so hard to achieve. Education has always been the key to opportunity, yet throughout history, black people have been systematically denied access to quality education. My own grandfather and grandmother migrated to the north, not my grandmother, because there was not a black high school. And so as we talk about what these opportunities mean and what these programs have meant for many of our students, it's frustrating that we're having to try and defend choices that we're making to support all students, right? Initiatives we have been promoting efforts to support all students, especially those from marginalized backgrounds. As someone who served on the school board for 8 years, I've seen firsthand how targeted support, culturally responsive teaching, and equitable policies can make a difference. When you dismantle DEIA, you're not just removing a concept, you're actively harming students, particularly black and brown students, by denying them representation, support, and the right to learn in an environment that values their identity and their experiences. So as we continue to have a conversation, I do, for the record, understand we don't want to lose any type of federal funding, but someone has to speak up on behalf of our students. And so thank you to this board, thank you to our community member that has stayed this entire time, and to the many people who spoke in public comment. These things are not going unaddressed. There was one, and I'll say it's a fallacy, anybody on the board, but I have to say it. The superintendent does not write her own goals, right? She does give suggestions. These are things I think we should focus on. The board then discusses, we then vote on those goals publicly. So I just, for the record, have to say that that's something that, you know, again, when we say those things, people interpret it as in a different way.
That's why we don't show up on time. in open session, because we're always arguing.
Discussing, yes, we're arguing about them and talking about them and trying to work it out.
Debating, not arguing. But no, I appreciate
Right,
that.
right.
And with that, I would like a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by
Second.
Ms. Lindsay,
Please bring your
seconded by Mr. Riddle. All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.